Hey guys, this is PTBF 2002 here, and today's TV show review will be on the hit Nickelodeon show, and that one is SpongeBob SquarePants. Yes, everyone including remember watching this masterpiece show on Nickelodeon. The show started airing in 1999 since its first episode. The show was originally and currently airing on Nickelodeon, Nicktoons, originally aired on MTV, Paramount Network, MTV2, TV Land, CBS, YTV in Canada, and currently streaming on Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime Video, and Paramount Plus. It chronicles the adventures of the title character and his aquatic friends in the underwater city of Bikini Bottom. The series received worldwide critical acclaim, and has gained popularity by its second season. As of 2019, the series is the fifth longest-running American animated series. Its popularity made it a multimedia franchise, the highest-rated Nickelodeon series, and the most profitable intellectual property for Paramount Consumer Products. By 2019, it had generated over $13 billion in merchandising revenue. On to the characters. First thing we have is SpongeBob himself. His optimistic outlook on life can be very inspiring, always trying his best to enjoy everything in life and spread that joy to others no matter what, contrasting the cranky and depressing nature of Squidward. But although he may act like a child, he's not someone note happy-go-lucky character, as he's still a competent and reasonable person who's capable of being perceptive and skeptical. He's conscientious and is extremely committed to his responsibilities. He may drive Squidward and Mrs. Puff crazy, but he himself has his limits and can get mad at others easily. The most famous example of this would be in Can You Spare a Dime? While some people can sympathize with Squidward and find SpongeBob irritating, he's not some brain-dead moron who can't take a hint. He's completely aware that Squidward is cranky, grouchy, doesn't think highly of him or his friends, but SpongeBob constantly tries to cheer him up anyways because he genuinely cares about him, and believes that he deserves to be happy. Some of the best episodes of the series are centered around their dynamic, such as Pizza Delivery, Fools in April, Dying for Pie, and Christmas Who. He has a clever, iconic, and cute adorable character design. Normally, squares are associated with being dull and boring, but SpongeBob subverts this by being nautically nonsensical, which is reflected by his buck teeth, long nose, rosy cheeks, and them big owl eyes. He is also very expressive, spawning countless internet memes, although that could also be attributed to the show's humor in general. They absolutely could not have found a better and more fitting voice for the character than Tom Kenny's. His performance perfectly encapsulates the personality and energy of the character, becoming extremely iconic, and many SpongeBob's most beloved moments in the would not have been as hilarious if it weren't for Kenny's delivery. There are also other languages that do great jobs dubbing him, for example, German and Brazilian Portuguese, and depending on your point of view, French. SpongeBob has also sung many great and memorable songs across the show's history, such as Ripped Pants, the FUN song, This Grill Is Not a Home, and the CAMPFIRESONG song. He even starred in his own stage musical, SpongeBob SquarePants, the Broadway musical, which is also great and a really well-made love letter to the series, with Ethan Slater doing a great job with his own take on the character. The secret formula to what makes SpongeBob's character tick is in Stephen Hillenburg's pitch Bible for the character, or Sponge Boy, as he was at the time, as that was the original vision for the character. Who is Sponge Boy? Sponge Boy is our hero. He's a single male sponge who resides in a fully furnished, two-bedroom pineapple. He has an abnormal love for his job at the Krusty Krab, a fast food restaurant. In fact, he's so proud of his Krusty Krab uniform that he never takes it off, not even when he showers. His big dream is to capture the not-so-coveted Employee of the Month award, but, because of his overzealous nature and havoc it creates, this goal constantly eludes him. But Sponge Boy's life is much richer than just pineapple to Krusty Krab and home again. He has a wide circle of friends and people who he thinks are his friends, but who would never admit it. He has a variety of interests which keep him occupied: rust, friction, bubble art, odors, and why hamburgers and french fries taste different. SpongeBob is incurably optimistic, innocent, earnest, and well-meaning. He is a free spirit, fascinated by the obvious, and creative enough to see almost anything in a new light. His good humor and good intentions often irritate others, but his refreshing attitude makes him a likable underdog. By day he embraces each moment with enthusiasm. By night he often lays awake so as to not miss anything then either. The star of SpongeBob is also comic obsessive, especially when it comes to details. If he buys a toothbrush, he might test several of them before he makes his purchase. If he sharpens a pencil, he might get down to the stub before he's satisfied with the point. Despite all of SpongeBob's positive character traits, he can't seem to avoid creating problems for himself. SpongeBob zeal usually means SpongeBob disaster. While trying too hard, he tends to do things wrong, really wrong, in almost any situation. From jump-starting his outboard boat mobile to just picking flowers for someone in the hospital, who's probably there thanks to him, the potential for disaster looms large. Oh yeah, SpongeBob plays the ukulele. What does SpongeBob want? SpongeBob would like to fit in. His ideal is to be like everyone else. He wants to buy into that dream of service with a smile, and be that team player, that company man with the positive mental attitude. But he never quite attains this goal. And, more importantly, he will never recognize this fact. Here we discover the tragic side of SpongeBob. Don't get nervous. He is tragic to some extent. It's extremely important for this character to have pathos, especially if he is to be a comic character. Champlin and Keaton understood this idea and exploited it to great effect. We see SpongeBob as built from within, observing that this creates sympathies and qualities which resonate. His desire to fit in, combined with his innocence about his inability to do so, create conflict. This conflict informs the character and his actions. What does he want? He wants to fit in. But like a square peg in a round hole, he can't. Example, SpongeBob goes to Muscle Beach, a popular Bikini Bottom recreation spot. He attempts all of the things that everyone else is doing: surfing, sunbathing, weightlifting, sand castle building, but does them in his own inimitable style. When SpongeBob can't pull his surfboard out of the sand, he invents a better kind of surfing. He repeatedly launches himself at the board, which bends backwards and slings him far away. SpongeBob's weightlifting set is a stick with two stuffed animals stuck on either side. Instead of weights, his sand castle looks like a treasure chest. When he opens it up, there's enough doubloons inside to buy everyone sodas at the Krusty Krab. What is SpongeBob's attitude? Much of what we've observed has shown that SpongeBob is optimistic. This trait is not to be taken lightly. There is a plethora of wisecracking, cynical, glib cartoon characters out there hitting each other on the head and pushing each other into wheat shredders. SpongeBob is not one of them. He is truly an optimist, a guy who can't help but look on the bright side, whose positive energy transforms the way we look at things, helping us find the irony in even the dullest of life's details. Example, Mr. Krabs dupes SpongeBob into accepting a pair of rubber boots instead of his weekly paycheck. SpongeBob and the boots become inseparable. Krabs can't believe his good fortune in having such a stooge for an employee. But then SpongeBob starts to use them creatively. They make a squeaky sound which he can manipulate like a musical instrument when he shuffles his feet. In fact, he amazes people with his musical boots. The squeaking sound drives Mr. Krabs crazy, to the point where everything he hears sounds like a series of squeaks, like the telltale heart, and he is forced to buy two boots back from SpongeBob at an absorbent price. How do these traits play out? An obstacle stands in our path. Most of us take a certain, logical approach to getting around the object. SpongeBob takes a wayward, unconventional, and ultimately funny approach, though still getting around the obstacle. This is essential SpongeBob logic. It is internal logic, and underscores his original thinking. This also means that he is not a loser. He always wins, even if it's only a personal win. He will get to where he's going, but the getting there is what makes him likable, interesting and significant. SpongeBob tries to fit in, fiercely embracing the normal and the mundane, but in doing so he turns upside down the very ideal he was striving for. Example, SpongeBob, a proud pineapple homeowner, decides to clean up his yard with a reef blower one Sunday morning, but in his hands the reef blower becomes a destructive force which he can't control. Patrick comes out of his rock with his own reef blower, and, thinking that this is how it's done, imitates SpongeBob being thrashed about. Together, the two reef-blowing neighbors erode the foundation of Squidward's Easter Island head. The house totters and falls over with Squidward in it. What makes SpongeBob different? SpongeBob is an ultra-creative character living among others that do not share his gift, especially the Squidwards and Mr. Krabs of the undersea world. Creative, original thought is rare indeed. It is the stuff of genius. And what genius was ever fully appreciated in his own time. The creative thinker always lives in contrast to his fellow sea creatures. He is an underdog, sometimes he is scorned, or ostracized, or misunderstood. But no matter what the reaction, the spirit of the creative thinker remains undaunted. It is always mutating and reinventing itself, and this is how we see SpongeBob. Unaware of his talents, he cheerily strives to assimilate in a world where unbridled creative thought is a catalyst for conflict. Luckily, his failure to fit in is mitigated by his optimism and his ability to turn a loss into a win for himself. Even with his abysmal Flanderization in Season 6B and 7, he can still be likable and even have his original personality on the odd occasion. Despite still having some flaws in said seasons, SpongeBob has gone back to his original personality since Season 8, and Tom Kenny returned the sponge back to his original pitch in his voice. With all of the above, he has certainly earned his role as one of the most popular and iconic cartoon characters of all time, alongside Mickey Mouse, Homer Simpson, and Bugs Bunny. Though he's became very highly successful, one could even argue he and his cartoon has become even more beloved than all of them combined. Number 2, Patrick Star. He may be dumb and quite moronic, but he presents his idiocy hilariously. Not always, however. With that said, his eccentric behavior as a comedic goofball can be just as hilarious if not more. While he can a bit of a dim-witted jerk sometimes, his jerky nature will often come off as hilarious to some viewers, similar to his fellow comic reliefs, such as Dory from Finding Nemo and Donkey from Shrek. Patrick is one of the most memorable comic reliefs in all of animation and TV in general. Not only he has made a ton of internet memes, but he even manages to steal the show at times. Even when he was a Karma Houdini/Idiot Houdini of some sort in Season 5, he does get his comeuppance for his bad actions in some episodes. Despite his stupidity being considered annoying at times, he has honest intentions for his behavior or actions. He is simple-minded but charming. While usually slothful, messy, and lazy at home, he can be fun-loving like SpongeBob and is also charmingly silly at the same time. He is amazingly and memorably voiced by Bill Fagerback in an iconic yet goofy manner, or sometimes in such different ways of speaking like in the episode Patrick Smartpants. Uncle Al also does a great job voicing him, and his impression almost sounds like his original voice. He was responsible for creating such mimetic material with some expressions and quotable moments he's made from the series to the 2004 movie, and such memorable scenes his existence has made with many worldwide. He has a cute character design, like SpongeBob and many characters done by Hillenburg. He's greatly animated as well. He also at the same time made some quotable lines and timeless scenes that were quotable, like the game over scene from Patrick, the game or memorable like the Ugly Barnacle story or the Look at It scene, both from Something Smells for example. He has shown to have a great, strong and healthy friendship with SpongeBob, with thoroughly helping SpongeBob whenever he's at his lowest or even motivating him, like in the pilot episode of SpongeBob, in such a relatable and childlike fashion that he is quite lovable to be around when he isn't trying to be stupid, but rather a supportive stooge instead. Speaking of which, he is a very pleasant, helpful, affable, and loyal character to be around when he wants to be, despite being an idiot. He's usually very understanding to his friends like SpongeBob and even other characters who loathe him like Squidward or Sandy. Also, a lot like Homer, he can have some brilliant moments with showing high intelligence on occasion aside from his usual stupidity, especially where he was marginally intelligent in Season 1. However, he just got a lot stupider over time. He managed to recover from his Flanderization from Season 6 9A, since Season 9B. where he managed to become a likable character again and thankfully managed to get his character back in shape. Number 3. Squidward Tentacles. Despite being a bad artist, he did make good art that people have enjoyed. He is vain, aloof, arrogant, cynical, and grouchy, but he puts those traits to good use. Much like characters such as Garfield, his sarcasm and vanity can be hilarious or just comical. He's also had many other funny moments aside from his sarcasm. Despite his grumpiness and arrogance, he has a good heart and actually cares about SpongeBob, secretly considering him his friend and even saving his life, standing up for him, or protecting him on several occasions. In April Fool's, although he did play a mean prank on SpongeBob before, he actually does apologize to him for doing so, although his attempts were raspy at first. In SpongeBob, You're Fired, he actually wanted SpongeBob to come back to the Krusty Krab, even when he gets annoyed by him. He is proven to be more caring than his boss, Mr. Krabs. He even called him out for selling SpongeBob to the Flying Dutchman for 62 cents in Born Again Krabs. Roger Bumpass does an awesome job voicing the character and his signature laugh. Speaking of his laugh, it is very good and it has a vibrant side to him. His clarinet skills may be poor, or just mid at best, most of the time, but that isn't always the case. He played the clarinet very nicely a few times. His design is great and mimetic, but his superhero design as Sour Note is even better. He is one of the most realistic and relatable characters in the show, a lot like characters such as Donald Duck, Ren H. Pilcrow Egg, Grim from the Grim Adventures of Billy, Mandy and Benson from regular show. His maturity and life struggles makes him heavily relatable to adult fans. Speaking of which, whenever he makes mistakes in a jerky manner, he gets a reasonable comeuppance for his actions and he also learns from them, making him rather sympathetic and likable as time passes on. Though Squidward alone is cynical quite often, SpongeBob finds the good in him. He's the only one who's aware that Mr. Krabs is a cheapskate. Unlike SpongeBob, there are times when he cares for SpongeBob, like in the episode Pizza Delivery. He stood up for him in the most satisfying ways possible. He does have a point in berating his neighbors for their shared immaturity, stupidity, and annoyance. In some episodes, he is put in charge of the Krusty Krab when Mr. Krabs is away. SpongeBob may have a good work ethic, but Squidward's maturity and intelligence give him an edge over SpongeBob. In fact, these qualities are the reason why he is chosen over SpongeBob to be the initial manager of the Krusty Krab 2 in the first movie. He even leads a marching band with tremendous success, much to his rival's shock. When the show declined between season 6-8, he was alongside Plankton and Mrs. Puff, who were the least flanderized of the main cast. He was at his absolute best in the following episodes: Christmas Who, because he gives everything he has to the citizens of Bikini Bottom, and Dying for Pie, because he accepts to spend an entire day with SpongeBob. After SpongeBob eats a pie that Squidward believes he ate, a bomb-camouflaged pie that he bought from a pirate. Number 4. Mr. Krabs. He does show care about SpongeBob and Pearl other than Squidward, even if he prioritizes money more often than not. He tells SpongeBob some of his stories about his life, like for example, he was in the Navy, which that was in shell of a man, and he used to have been best friends with Plankton before. That's even in friend or foe. He acts like a real soldier as if he was still at war with another person, but doesn't take his job too seriously. In Whale of a Birthday, he actually promised Pearl that he would never destroy Pearl's 16th birthday, even how much of a cheapskate he is. Unlike Squidward, who screams at SpongeBob so much, he treats him as if he was actually his son, and tells him what's best for him. Most of the time, he gives SpongeBob and Patrick some best advice in episodes like Hooky and Sailor Mouth. He is excellent at beating his arch-rival Plankton, against any and all odds. He helped Squidward perform a band for the Bubble Bowl and Band Geeks. He sang the song duet with SpongeBob and about how much he missed him, and even cared in Welcome to the Chum Bucket. He even helped decorate SpongeBob's house for his birthday in SpongeBob's Big Birthday Blowout. After being flanderized during season 6-10, he managed to revert to his original personality in season 11. Number 5. Sandy Cheeks. She was a pretty kind and funny character from the SpongeBob universe. In her debut episode, Tea in the Tree Dome, She tries to be nice to SpongeBob as a first visit. She's also brave. She's been knowing to fight a lot of creatures as evidenced in her debut where she is first seen wrestling a giant clam who tries to eat her. Plus, she's also smart like in the episode SpongeBob, Sandy and the Worm. She knows how to prevent SpongeBob and her from getting killed by the Alaskan bullworm. She always tries to protect her friends from dangerous things. She also tried teaching Mr. Krabs a lesson for sending SpongeBob to a dangerous mission just so that he can go shopping. Plankton shared a good chemistry with her and perfect chemistry. One of a few good episodes from even the dark age of the show. Her heartwarming moments with SpongeBob again can give some bad episodes a redeeming quality like Truth or Square due to the wedding scene. Even though it was meant to be a play, her appearance is very cute and harmless. She's a tomboy, so she is different from all the other female characters from SpongeBob SquarePants. This face that she made in Pre-Hibernation Week is cute and funny at the same time. Plus, it became a great internet meme as well. Back to the episode SpongeBob, Sandy and the Worm, when she regretted being self-centered and finally learned from her mistakes to SpongeBob. She is amazingly voiced by Carolyn Lawrence, who does an unforgettable performance. While she was flanderized during the show's decline, she remained a good character unlike most of the cast. Then, she reverted to her original personality in Season 9. Number 6. Gary the Snail. He has an adorable design. Despite not doing much in the show overall, there are some episodes where he can be helpful, like in Your Shoes Untied. He has a great chemistry with his owner SpongeBob. He has funny moments, such as in Fungus Among Us. Despite being a bad episode, he isn't afraid to act bravely in order to save his friends whenever it's needed. Speaking of which, in A Pal for Gary, Gary stood up to Puffy Fluffy and didn't even ask to be thanked by SpongeBob, although he deserved it. He's really intelligent for a snail who usually acts like a pet dog and or cat. It's implied that he has a way with words. As Sandy puts it, in Culture Shock, his chatterbox voice is accurately described as smooth like jazz. He was the only main character to not get flanderized, even during the show's decline. He has a passion for animal rights and not being subject to things he doesn't want to do. He is shown to be a good driver in Tudor Sauce, where he drives a boat through the most dangerous road in Bikini Bottom without any issues. Number 7. Fred the Fish. He has spawned some of the greatest lines catchphrases in the series, most notably "My leg" and "Oh, brother, this guy stinks." He is a very supportive friend of the main characters and occasionally helps them in situations, especially in the later seasons. He is a lot more sympathetic than the majority of the other incidentals. Like the other background characters, he has shown to help out SpongeBob on occasions, such as in SpongeBob's Last Stand, where he, along with the rest of the fish, helps save jellyfish fields. Although it's not seen often, he has a really good singing voice that makes it count where it's heard, especially in My Leg Is in Love. He's very nice to most of the cast, and in the background, he can be seen being nice to others. He gets even more screen time in Season 11 and onwards than in Seasons 4-10. Although he does get a lot of screen time in Seasons 1-3, despite generally either playing a supporting role or a minor role in the series, there are a few exceptions. The most prominent one was in My Leg. He is one of the most memorable characters in the SpongeBob franchise. Despite being treated badly by most of the cast, there are some exceptions, with SpongeBob and other fish being close to him. He is one of the few characters that wasn't flanderized in Season 6-8. Despite being very underused in these seasons, he's also one of the few characters from SpongeBob to have character development, where he went from a rude and sarcastic background character to a nicer and more easy to get along with person. Number 8. Larry the Lobster. For starters, he is a bodybuilder who loves to have fun. Next to SpongeBob himself, he is one of the most optimistic, nicest people you'll ever meet in Bikini Bottom. He has well-written relationships with some people. In the episode Squid Plus One, when Squidward needed someone to attend with him to a gallery opening, he turns to Larry and the two have a blast, until he harshly insults Larry's protein shakes. In the episode You Don't Know Sponge, after upsetting SpongeBob by failing to recall anything about him, Patrick meets up with Larry to go shopping to buy a gift for his bestest buddy. As of Season 9, He now owns and runs a gym where people can work out to have a strong body as he does now, although he loves to have fun himself. There are some times where he knows when to draw the line. In the infamous Squirrel Jelly, he had a right to call Sandy out on her rambunctious behavior as she got him injured. Like with most SpongeBob SquarePants characters, he has a very unique and memorable design. Doug Lawrence does a fantastic job voicing him. Number 9. Harold the Fish. He's one of the funniest background characters in SpongeBob SquarePants, and has already had several memes known to fans of the show. His biggest memes of his are "We'll show you old man" and "Big, meaty claws." He's probably the most memorable background character in the show. The scenes where he starts a fight with a character are hilarious and are the main reason he is so memorable. Despite being shown as an aggressive character in some episodes, he can also be nice at times. He is present in almost every episode of the series, sometimes playing a big role or small lines and sometimes being used only as a prop. He has a good design, as are almost all the characters in the show. Number 10. Plankton. He is one of the funniest Nicktoon villains ever created. Just like another great villain that isn't from Nickelodeon, Plankton's dialogue with Karen is usually hilarious and witty, and he should marry to that computer in the first place. His marriage to Karen has also been the focus of many great episodes, like Single Cell Anniversary, Karen's Virus, Walking the Plankton, and Lockdown for Love. Unlike Mr. Krabs, all that Plankton wants is to have his own restaurant that cares for his own customers, even if he tries to steal Mr. Krabs' secret formula. Although on some occasions, he wants to rule the world, considering that he embraces evil from all the rivalry. His comical defeats, such as being stepped on like a bug or being launched back to the chum bucket, are always very entertaining to watch and very iconic in the fact Plankton is treated like an insect for how incredibly tiny he is. Plankton's minuscule appearance coupled with his Napoleon complex traits makes for some recurring hilarious slapstick visual gags, such as being stomped by people like a bug. Plankton is very experienced and talented with his knowledge in science and technology, which allows him to become an amazing scientist, inventor and engineer who can invent and create many inventions and gadgets. Two examples include the chum bucket helmets that allowed him to control the minds of everyone in Bikini Bottom in the first movie, him building a giant machine of himself, as well as many warplanes and tank machines that come with the fighting machine he uses to terrorize the Krusty Krabs. In SpongeBob, Out of Water and several episodes in the show like his robotic imitation of Krabs and the Imitation Krabs episode. In the episode FUN, he and SpongeBob got along well as in the Sponge Out of Water movie. Plankton acts as the supportive deuteragonist of SpongeBob, Out of Water, which is showing that he wants to help and does not care too much about his single-minded goal over his friends. When his restaurant goes into business, he doesn't only care about money and fame, he genuinely cares about the customers at his restaurant. Unlike his archenemy Mr. Krabs' obsession with money and fame, especially money, he was arguably at his best in the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, where he slowly became a genuine threat to be reckoned upon despite having his fair share of humorous and pathetic moments, which makes him a fun villain to see his sinister side and his comedic side done with good pacing and timing. Even outside his having intimidating moments in the first movie, where he successfully takes over Bikini Bottom, he also has his menacing moments in the show as a villain, such as his debut appearance with him taking control of SpongeBob's body to force him in revealing the Krabby Patty's ingredients, which he nearly succeeds at before Plankton's patty obsession got the better of him in a comical manner, him getting his entire family of Planktons to attack and terrorize Krabs at the Krusty Krab with full force and tying up Mr. Krabs, which also nearly has Plankton succeed in getting the formula before Krabs tricked him in Plankton's army. And the second movie when he creates a giant machine of himself that turns into a warplane, tank and giant robot to terrorize the Krusty Krab and nearly succeeded in attacking Krabs to take the formula for himself, making him a villain with credible and awesome moments despite having several arrogant and incompetent moments played for laughs. He had also shown to have good chemistry with Sandy in the episode Perfect Chemistry, making them friendly scientists who are intelligent and smart enough to collab and work together very well on occasion. When the show declined between season 6-8, He and Squidward were the most likable and least flanderized of the main cast. Plankton can be a good father at times. He was courageous when attempting to save his son Chip too. Although he embraces being evil and selfish, he does possess much better personality traits than Mr. Krabs does. He values the well-being of those he befriends or is in relationships with, such as his wife Karen, his former pet Spot, and even SpongeBob himself of all people. He is even willing to help SpongeBob and his friends genuinely when not having a hidden agenda with stealing the formula. He often has quite a snarky attitude and his sarcastic remarks can be really funny. His first name, Sheldon, can be hilarious, as seen in Plankton's Army. His screams, provided by Mr. Lawrence, are hilarious to hear, while all of his constant failures, setbacks, and misadventures are all played for comedy. It also raises a ton of sympathy since it's sometimes done in a way for us to sympathize with Plankton for how incredibly luckless and ineffectual he generally is. Let's also not forget about their theme park attractions. SpongeBob SquarePants 4D, SpongeBob SquarePants Rock Bottom Plunge, Pineapple Poppers Dutchman's Deck, Adventure Course SpongeBob SquarePants 4D, The Great Jelly, Rescue Bikini Bottom Crosstown Express, and SpongeBob's Jellyfish Jam Sandy's Blasting Bronco. They also have their own movies from Paramount Pictures, Paramount Animation, Nickelodeon Movies, and United Plankton Pictures Incorporated. The SpongeBob SquarePants movie in 2004, the SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water in 2015, and the SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run in 2020. Not only that, there's also going to be another movie, the SpongeBob movie, Search for SquarePants, which will come out next year in 2025. They also have their own video games from THQ, Activision, THQ Nordic, Nickelodeon, SpongeBob SquarePants, Legend of the Lost Spatula, SpongeBob SquarePants, Operation Krabby Patty, SpongeBob SquarePants, Super Sponge, SpongeBob SquarePants, Employee of the Month, SpongeBob SquarePants, Revenge of the Flying Dutchman, SpongeBob SquarePants Collapse, SpongeBob SquarePants Starts, SpongeBob SquarePants, Battle for Bikini Bottom, SpongeBob SquarePants Typing, The SpongeBob SquarePants Movie, Video Game, SpongeBob SquarePants, Lights, Camera, Pants, SpongeBob SquarePants, The Yellow Avenger, SpongeBob SquarePants, Creature from the Krusty Krab, SpongeBob's Atlantis SquarePants, Video Game, SpongeBob SquarePants, Underpants Slam, SpongeBob SquarePants featuring Nicktoons, Globs of Doom, Drawn to Life, SpongeBob SquarePants Edition, SpongeBob vs. The Big One, Beach Party Cook-Off, SpongeBob's Truth or Square, Video Game, SpongeBob's Boating Bash, SpongeBob SquigglePants for the U-Draw, SpongeBob Surf Skate Road Trip, SpongeBob SquarePants, Plankton's Robotic Revenge, SpongeBob Hero Pants, SpongeBob SquarePants, Battle for Bikini Bottom A Rehydrated, and SpongeBob SquarePants, The Cosmic Shake. He even appears in the crossover games with other Nickelodeon characters. Nicktoons Racing, Nickelodeon Party Blast, Nicktoons, Freeze Frame Frenzy, Nicktoons Unite, Nicktoons, Attack of the Toy Bots, Nicktoons, Freeze Frame Frenzy, Nicktoons Move In, Nicktoons Winners Cup Racing, Nicktoons, Battle for Volcano Island, Nicktoons Nitro, Nicktoons MLB, Nickelodeon Kart Racers, Nickelodeon Kart Racers 2, Grand Prix, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3, Slime Speedway, and Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. So, I'm giving this show a 10 out of 10. Best show from Nickelodeon.